HashiConf is a wrap for another year. So I'll be honest up front. I haven't had a chance to look through all the material yet. Obviously, we're not in the friendliest time zone for the conference, and there's a lot of content. Good news is it's up there on demand for a week, and I'm sure it'll be on YouTube after that. So yeah, if you hear anything today that grabs your interest and questions that I can't answer, definitely recommend hearing it from the horse's mouth, as it were. So who am I? John Jarvis, JJ. I'm a technical consultant here at Somerford Associates. Been here about 18 months now. I mostly work in with what we affectionately call the HashiStack. Terraform and Vault certified. Got the associate, but also as it says on the slide, their certification program chip in both Terraform and Vault. Also a Splunk architect. So briefly, what's another thing up front? I know it's booked for an hour, but I'll definitely be giving you some of your time back there. I just want to really get to the key points, to be honest, and then we can have a discussion about other things if you'd like. But yeah, just want to hit the highlights of the conference really, and what I'm excited about. My take on it, as you see there. But before that, for any, if you aren't familiar with the with HashiCorp or the HashiStack, we'll just do a quick intro to that. One pager, I promise. Similarly, if you don't know about Somerford, I won't go on about that too much, but I will let you know who we are and what we do. So hopefully that's what you were expecting. If you've got any questions, let's just open the floor right from the start. But if not, let's crack on. So HashiCorp, certainly a name that you've probably heard if you're in the cloud space at all, which is not everybody, I fully appreciate. But they do specialize in what they call the cloud adoption journey, and making that as painless as possible, I guess. Efficiency, ease of use, not tearing down what you're doing, your workflows, anything like that. It's about facilitation really. So and doing so, as you see on the slide there, securely and at scale. That's the really key message I want to drive home with this slide in particular is so HashiStack, the HashiStack is open source. So we're talking about as you see the Terraform, Vault, Consul, and Nomad isn't pictured. But that's generally what we're referring to. Although you'll see today that there's a few other bits that have been introduced since last year. Actually, they're coming up on a year. But yeah, so they're open source. But that's more to get a flavor of what they're capable of, really, the tools. And if you're looking to, if you're looking for resiliency, if you're looking for that functionality at scale, multi-data center is often one that comes up, or just the size of your teams that are collaborating and whatnot, and governing all that as well, another huge one. Then that's where the enterprise license comes in, really shines. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we're a hyper specialized partner, Somerford. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. I don't want to go on about it too much, but obviously we're going to go into a bit more detail on some of the parts of the HashiStack right now. So again, questions, please fire them whenever they occur to you. Okay, so I've kind of broken this down into what I see as three key parts based over the two keynotes, and then I saw a couple of themes that I thought I'd kind of come back around on. So hopefully this format will make sense to you. Let's just get right into it. So right off the top, mono with Boundary. Now, Boundary is a year old, roughly, introduced in at HashiConf last year, and it's really come a long way in that time. So that was a big part of the highlights, obviously, but in particular, it seemed like they were kind of there's going to be stepping up development basically in the next year, and the first kind of indicator of that was this insider program that they've announced. So it's there's a I can share the link in the chat if you don't have it, but it's on the conference page as well. I think it's right in the description of the keynote, or right off that. It's basically a survey. Are you using Boundary and whatnot? And then let's get some more information from you, regular updates kind of thing on how what your pain points are, as we would say here at Somerford, what your pain points are with it, and what you want to see. So that was really interesting to me, because I mean, obviously, although with open source products, they have a community around them, and there's a lot of feedback, and HashiCorp is really responsive to that. But this I felt was a further indication that things were going to be changing. On that note, the next item that Armand was talking about was partnership with Microsoft. It's they've already been doing quite a bit with Microsoft, and one of the things they highlighted was the Graft API, Microsoft's Graft API, and how that's now supported in the Azure Active Directory provider, Terraform provider, and you can and through it you can manage your AAD resources and whatnot. So already really working closely with Microsoft. Now they're going to continue that, specifically in the zero trust space, and there was a lot in there. But one of the things that really stuck out for me was that this integration between Boundary and Azure Active Directory, they're going to be tightly coupled, and even to the point where you can actually directly access Vault through it. So it sounds already you're able to manipulate to manage a lot of your AD Azure AD infrastructure, but it just sounds like it's going to be even more so as time goes on. So that was really interesting from my point of view overall. Now, Armand then kind of teased the breakout session where they would go into more details on Boundary, and this actually was the highlight for me. Boundary, the latest in secure access management was the name of the talk, and it was really a great presentation overall. They actually told a story, so think of it like we've got sales analysts, but we've also got database admins. We've got 2 product lines, and we've got a support team. How in real time are we going to go from, sales are doing their job, running their reports, they run into a problem, they call the admins, and it's all happening quite quickly. How are we going to broker that access securely in a timely manner? We're not talking about ticketing systems here or anything like that. And they told that entire story while showing you the Boundary interface, which I thought was really cool. It's not often that I get excited about a technical talk, but I definitely recommend that one. And kind of going with the theme of the integration or whatever. Probably one of the coolest things about it was they showed the actual tools that, and they were running actual reports that analysts would run, Postgres in this case, and then they also put up pgadmin for when they were doing the DBA stuff. So and just showing how that it is you can use your tooling with Boundary basically, and it's you can get these creds and they're ephemeral, and you really don't have to worry about it in any way, shape, or form. And if it expires, the job takes longer than you think. That's the other thing. You don't have to estimate. It's not like a PAM situation where you're like, can I have DBA access for 30 minutes kind of thing. It's like if you get the access, and however it's configured, if it does expire, you can ask for it again, and if the policy is allowed, and that's so it's very much self-service. I mean, that's throughout the product line, obviously, but really highlighted with this talk, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was really excited. A few other things in that talk. It was interesting to hear about how they've really written Boundary from the ground up, and the security, the auditing mechanisms around, it's kind of a default sensitivity. So right down to the event details, individual events are tagged up, and they're tagged up as sensitive by default. So even if you're not using that stuff, you can you can be assured that you turn on auditing, and it's going to be a case where you permit things into it to find to pass on to observability tooling. Sorry, I'll get my words there in a sec. What other things? Oh yeah, and I mean, it's hard to rank these, to be honest. Host catalogs, if you're familiar with Boundary at all, that's kind of the way that this scales, in that you can't be writing policies for individual hosts, but like all of your database systems, for example, can be in one host catalog. And in this example, they had the two different product lines were tagged up differently and in different hosts. But what's really cool, and this is not even alpha, I don't think they're teasing this, but it's dynamic host catalogs. So you think about your infrastructure in your on cloud, on-prem, wherever, and it's standing up, it's coming down, and it's about defining those host sets such that in any moment they're being populated or being updated to reflect systems down or whatever, and it's based on tagging, and it's quite granular. So in this case, they demonstrated product line standing up. They've got two instances of their database, and then they stand up another one, bring another one down, and showing that in the moment, Boundary is recognizing the system is up, it belongs in this catalog. That means these people have access to it in these ways, and yeah, just super impressive, really. They're targeting, get this straight, AWS and Azure with that initially, I think. And but I mean, Kubernetes is coming, and importantly, they're really looking to the community as well to add support, as you would expect, just like with Terraform providers and whatnot. So really, be really interesting to see where this goes, basically. So that was kind of the first of the three themes there, and then Mitchell came on. It's kind of cool to see him actually do that, because he's obviously stepped back a bit in the company, but and at times I think it's fair to say that he's been a bit wooden. Pot kettle black, I know. Anyway, but he was really excited. He was obviously excited, and I know he stepped back, and I guess maybe he stepped back more into Waypoint than anything, because he was obviously really passionate about it, and it was cool to see. And it was obvious to see why he was as well, because yeah, it's the the headline is not point 6 is being released, and it's really, there's been some significant changes in the way that Waypoint works. So just step back. So Boundary, Zero Trust. Waypoint is more about I should have had a slide about um, the development build process, but basically it's the tail end of that. Armand can do this much better. Go see the Waypoint summary. But yeah, basically it's about it's continuing the theme of abstraction, but now we're talking about the part where, okay, you've got your code or whatever, but now you need to build it and deploy it, and then manage releases as well. So it's about allowing the developers to get on with what they want to do, write the code and not worry about, well, worry as much as they want to or have to for their job about where the code's going, how healthy it is, that kind of stuff. The ops end of the DevOps, basically, they can hand off. So yeah, not point 0.6. A lot of changes basically. But the core thesis, of Waypoint, this end-to-end workflow, not dropping off where you have to then pick up all these details or whatever, and also making it app centric. So again, I don't care if we're running in on Docker or VMs or in Kubernetes. It's about the app itself, and all the operations around it are focused on that. And this allows flexibility as well for the operators, right? So the people that are actually keeping this stuff running, they can add new things to the stack, new tools. It's very much about flexibility, customization, and all that stuff can happen without the developers necessarily being directly involved. They just care about waypoint up is the command. So yeah, just sorry. I think I got all that. I'm not a developer at anymore, so a lot of the Waypoint stuff, I'm going to be honest, it looked really cool. And again, they had Mitchell teased Evan's breakout session where he actually runs through a real web app being deployed, and kind of talks about all of the all the features, all the ways that you can, because I mean, I guess one of the things I should really highlight is there's the idea of one configuration file. So if you think about outside of Waypoint, everywhere you deploy, you're going to have different configurations. They're going to get out of date. It's going to be a mess basically, depending on how many different places you're deploying to. And not only that, even if you are deploying to relatively few places, if you think about the difference between a staging environment and a production environment, that stuff can quite quickly get to the point where you no longer really trust it. It's like, okay, fine, staging is supposed to be a copy of production, but I'm pretty sure it's out of date. Whereas if you've got one configuration file that's parameterized, that's the key. So you can feed in things in real time. That staging and production configuration, by the very nature of it, are identical. So that opens up a lot of possibilities as well. But yeah, it was really, I'm going to be honest, Evan's talk was a little bit over my head at times, but again, really passionate and obviously really quite responsive to the community, and just, I mean, he said it many times. I'm so excited, and you really felt it. Armand tends to say it all the time. I don't know if he's really as excited about all the things as he says he is, but yeah, I came across with that. So, um, yeah, so those two, third kind of pillar of the conference, going into kind of now day two keynote. Consul obviously been around for a while, but again, really in the last 6 months or so, I would say it's HashiCorp is stepping up on this one. And I'm trying to remember if it was this summer or not where they did the benchmarking, but basically around Consul-Terraform-Sync and the network infrastructure automation, they did some really heavy benchmarking. Does this stuff really scale as much as we say it does? Can global multi companies with multi data center presence, can they actually change their networking on the fly? Can their application and their networking, does it work? And yeah, it's a good read. I can link to that later as well if you want. Really good results from their point of view. So anyway, if we want to take a step back for a sec, just because Consul is a tricky one to get your head around. HashiCorp kind of break it up into 4 different pillars of challenges that Consul is addressing. So, and the first bit is how do all the services find one another? How can you reliably have a dynamic environment? That's a service discovery piece. So that's bread and butter for Consul. And then if you want to talk about, okay, they found each other, but how do you govern access to that? Broadly speaking, in a way that scales. Not manipulating individual firewall rules, that kind of thing. It just won't happen in real time. So yeah, how do you just secure and govern that? That's service mesh territory. Working with your control plane. Just mentioned earlier. Third piece, network infrastructure automation, and that's again about making sure that, yeah, obviously you've got services coming up and down, running on Kubernetes or whatever. So yeah, it's really reacting to demand. Can your network similarly, change and support that architecture in a timely fashion in an automated way? Excuse me. And the fourth piece, which is kind of a key for the conference, because this has been there's been some significant development, is around the API gateway. So it's like facilitating access to API-driven services. So a lot of the stuff we've just been talking about there is what's called east-west traffic, intra as opposed to inter um, data center traffic. Well, what about um, ingress from outside the data center? That kind of thing, north-south traffic, typically called. And yeah, that's all about the API gateway, which they've really been putting a lot of work into. So that's just a bit of background there. Not, no, it's not. Too used to even Terraform's not out, not anymore. Console 1.11 alpha release. That's what that's basically the headline of this. It's going to be generally available later this year. And the big feature, there's a lot on the API gateway, which I'll get into, but what I thought was really cool was the administrative partitions. Again, I went to the breakout session that Blake ran. I won't butcher his last name. Great talk. He, yeah, it's really cool to see him speak, actually, because in the forums, on the Discuss forum, he's always in there and he's just answering all levels of questions. He's a product manager, but he knows it inside and out. And it was really cool to see that. Yeah, that came across again in this particular breakout session. So he was talking about the administrative partitions, which is an enterprise feature that they've been working on, and it's talking about, again, at scale, the kind of the problems that they've had with Consul in terms of the amount of infrastructure you need to get any kind of separation or delegation of control amongst those data centers. They've really worked hard on that, and that's the core of what administrative partitions are. I think it might actually be easier if I just showed you a few images from the blog post, because I found that to be quite useful. So yeah, if you think about these, hopefully you can see that. Yeah, looks like it. These partitions, running Kubernetes VMs or whatever. That's fine in a small scale, but if you look at before and after admin partitions, like this, is the picture says 1,000 words, right? The infrastructure involved previously to get any sort of delegation of control meant that you had to have individual console clusters, and you could do it with namespaces, but there wasn't quite the level of isolation that was necessary, and in some cases you had to create what they called islands, basically, that were not federating, not part of the overall mesh. So now what you've got is the ability with one console cluster to now have these administrative partitions where tenants, they have complete control over their I was going to say namespaces. Well, they're partitions, because you can have multiple namespaces within your partition as well. So yeah, it's really quite neat. And again, I definitely recommend that talk. There's all kinds of use cases that are no longer a problem. Things like different data centers happening to deploy to the same IP space, for example, private IP space, and then federation clashes, all the rest of it. Not a problem anymore with this architecture. So yeah, pretty cool. Bum, 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 bum. Sorry, where was I? I'm going all over the place now. My poor Mac. Sorry. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so where was I? They've also got a so if you want to run Consul on Kubernetes, which is obviously something that's more and more their customers are doing. It's been a bit tricky up till now, and much like was I going to say, it's installing Vault with Kubernetes, which is something I'm more familiar with. Helm is the way to do it, and this is true of Consul as well. Thing is, though, I guess they're getting a lot of feedback that it's overwhelming, the number of options in Helm. And so now they've simplified that. That's still available, obviously, but now you can literally run a one-line command and install it. And yeah, it just really simplifies the whole process, really. That was another big one in 1.11. So API Gateway, talked about it a little bit. It's about having a dedicated ingress solution for intelligently routing traffic to applications running on your console mesh. So it's basically a single control plane. So you're dealing with the local east-west traffic, but you're also able to deal with the north-south external clients in the same manner. And they're targeting Kubernetes in particular with this initial release. So yeah, more coming in that space for sure. So I talked about some themes that I saw, and one of the big ones, the big one really, because Armand led with it, was talking about zero trust and the emphasis on zero trust that HashiCorp has been focusing on, but is now, I think, um, doubling down on, I guess you would say. Last year when they introduced Boundary, I mean, for me, I thought this makes perfect sense. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Remote work is skyrocketing. This means of everybody is trying to figure out what to do, and in the process, I tend to have a vault mindset, and it's in the process there's secrets all over the place. Everybody's kit, personal and work stuff is being all intermixed, and it's just about getting the job done, right? So enter Boundary, where if you've got it, even from the early days, if you've got it working with Vault, there's actually these scenarios where creds never hit the endpoint at all, and it's just seamless. I mean, that's wicked. I mean, it was a limited number of use cases that could do that. But even if the creds did, sit on the endpoint, again, with Vault managing them, they're ephemeral, right? It's like, okay, they're compromised, but you've got 30 minutes or whatever to do something with it, because then they're no longer valid. So yeah, really excited to hear that last year. But now it's they've got 3 desktop clients across all the major platforms, and it was interesting to hear Armand talk about the wider context. So I haven't had a chance to look into it yet, but there's apparently some mandate either coming down or in place now already about requiring zero trust in all U.S. government systems. Again, the degree of that and whatnot is I still have to find that out. But just as an indicator, that's huge. I'm old enough. I worked in common criteria security evaluations 20 years ago, and mandate came down that to use common criteria certified products only, in the security settings in government. And I can tell you, my workload increased a lot. So yeah, I think that's really big news. It's a good sign as well. I mean, I think that's what we want to hear. The castle and moat doesn't work anymore. But yeah, I think that combined with the fact that they're partnering heavily with Microsoft, who are deeply embedded, obviously, in the U.S. government already, means that it's going to be, I think, for us in the world more broadly, there's going to be a lot of development in this, and a lot of progress. It's going to be a lot of eyes on, and it's I think 22 is going to be really interesting for zero trust and for boundary in particular. So that was kind of one of the themes that I saw with that. And the other one, I've said it a few times now, but um, when I was writing this presentation, I thought I wanted to use something like the elephant in the room or whatever, but that's not the correct analogy because they said it over and over again. Every single talk that I've watched so far has, I'm pretty sure everyone has mentioned Kubernetes, and yeah, it's obvious that they are responding to customer demand, um, it's just the popularity of the tool really, and wanting to help people in that space. So again, I haven't personally seen a lot with our clients wanting to run console service mesh on top of Kubernetes, but it's obviously something that they have seen a lot of, or see a real opportunity, because I do know that Kubernetes is it's more about isolated environments. Um, if you've got multi-data center situation, you're not typically having, as I understand it anyway, Kubernetes installations talking to one another. This is where running console on top and that federation, that resiliency there. Again, with the gateway, dedicated gateways that are really really locking it down and securing it. But um, I can certainly see the use case for that, and it's obvious from the emphasis they're placing on it that it's something clients are asking for. And Waypoint as well is it's the I'm sure Mitchell said it. Evan definitely said it. It's the choice for most people, most developers, for their deployments. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes as well, because it's yeah, if they can position themselves correctly on this, then it's going to be a wild ride, I think. So that was kind of broadly what I wanted to say about all this. I've got a few more talks that I was going to come in with and just mention, but thought I'd open the floor up and see if anyone else had some interesting talks that they wanted to raise, or questions about stuff that I have already raised. I think everybody's unmuted. Just let me check. But yeah, feel free to chime in. I think, I mean, well, another one that I could actually raise, if you're just getting yourself together, was so they announced, they talked a lot about the HashiCorp Cloud platform, which was announced earlier this year. It's a Vault and Consul, and now Packer as well was a private beta, and with the conference now, it's that beta is public. And yeah, that's Megan Marsh is the head of that project, and she is the roadmap that she outlined earlier this year was really really interesting, and kind of underlined it again at the conference. It's not images in the cloud, I guess, just to be to that they clarify this as well. It's about the metadata that's stored in the cloud for the moment, and whatever solution you're using for building and managing your images, that stays. But with this metadata available to all your tooling, it's kind of it allows you to do a lot more around structuring things along your pipeline, and making sure that your your images aren't getting out of date, and all the rest of it. It's the missing piece, as they put it, really, between you build your images, you run your images, and it's like how how do you keep that, secure, big one, but also offering all the latest functionality and whatnot in your environment.
Hey, I've got a quick question.
Oh, hey, yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Looking at Hashi Boundary, obviously, seems quite exciting.
Hmm.
And seeing as security is the future, everything's going to be need to be secure. How scalable is this? Have they discussed that? Is it accessible to the smaller as well as the larger companies, or is this going to be um, is this easy to implement, difficult? Can you
Right.
sort of go into that?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, no, thanks for that. Yeah, it's well, I think first of all, it's to point out that it is just an open source product for the moment, right? So it's early. It's not. It's been a year, but it's still early days. So I think it's fair to say that they're expecting, and the Insider program is a perfect example of this. They're expecting people who are pretty savvy on this stuff to be the ones that are working on it now, and really kicking the tires on all the desktop clients, and just pushing the boundaries. Um, with a view to, I think, probably having boundary enterprise in the future, and offering full support on that, and absolutely making sure that it's rock solid and can scale out. um, I myself have only kind of played with it in proof of concept kind of scenarios and whatnot, but um, certainly the way they're talking about it, that they've developed all of the components from the ground up. I think scalability it is what HashiCorp does, right? It's there's none of their tools are designed to hit a ceiling, or going for a certain market. Like all you have to do is I bang on about this. The Adobe um, case study with Vault, like that is just mind-boggling. The response times that they expected for that they needed for their kit globally, and how they were able to meet that, and the the tuning and whatnot that went into that. But end of the day, the tooling was able to do it. I absolutely believe that in addition to Vault, like now having Vault interact with Boundary on that scale is something that they're looking to. But today, hmm, it'd be I can't imagine that it's it's quite there yet, because a lot of our clients certainly are going to want support, and like with strict SLAs as well about um, time to resolve and that kind of thing. They've got their business continuity requirements and all the rest. So Boundary's not in that space yet, but it's coming. And to be honest, I think it may be coming in 22. Like it just feels like there's a lot of momentum there. So, but we'll see.
No, that's great. Cheers.
Cool. Yeah. Just there was speaking of console on Kubernetes, there was a talk that was done about Vault in that space, and how you manage secrets in that case, and talked about a few interesting use cases that I hadn't really considered, because again, the console on Kubernetes thing was kind of new to me, really. But a lot of their clients, they said in this space, like they just want to get it working at this point. They don't even want to consider, like, well, really, to be secure, we'd need to rotate the gossip key the console's using to communicate. But I mean, at scale and across data centers, like that's really quite the undertaking, you would think. But then they demoed it, a way to do it. in this talk, which I thought was really cool. It involved a bunch of sidecars, which I had to watch a few times to get my head around, because I'm again, anybody who's using Hashi stuff with Kubernetes is going to have played around with injecting secrets from Vault. But yeah, there were a few different sidecars that were monitoring things and whatnot, and it was really cool. And they were specifically for me. I'm a security guy, really consider myself. They were really focusing on that, and for the future, they were talking about scenarios where the Vault token could be vulnerable in certain scenarios, and how they were looking to rotate that as well in the future. So a lot of work going on, really. And that's well, I mean, if you want to talk about another theme, that's certainly one there. I mentioned Nomad earlier, so I think maybe I'll close on that one. Nomad 1.2 announced. The big ones there was a new type of job introduced, system batch job, sysbatch, and it's kind of around these regular things that run, say, system upgrades or garbage collection for your apps and that kind of thing. So, but another really cool one was what they call Nomad Pack, a package manager for Nomad. So it's in tech preview right now. And I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to really look into it yet, but it sounds pretty cool. So let's yeah, I do updates regularly, as some of you maybe know, and I'm definitely looking forward to diving into that one a little bit. That's kind of where I've been with the Kubernetes thing, to be honest, is trying to. I think HashiCorp has done a great job of explaining the spectrum between Nomad and Kubernetes as a a scheduling platform, and really when you want to consider one over the other, when you want to run both side by side, because they kind of play well together. And that's another theme that has come up with Consul, obviously. So yeah, it'll be interesting, and yeah, stay tuned for that. I'll definitely be checking out that in an update. So thanks for your attention. I'm just gonna quickly talk about us. I promise it won't be for too long. So Somerford are, we work with clients across all the sectors of UK industry, and lots of Her Majesty's government as well. On the right there, you see we're not just a HashiCorp partner. It's really a tailored suite of tools that we work with, and it's about best in breed, really, in terms of security, observability, and that kind of space. And generally about us, it's we're really committed to investing in our staff, training them, certifying them in all of our products, and keeping them up to date as well, and then using that knowledge, using the best practice that they're aware of, to really tailor solutions to you. It's not about it's not about how you can what tools we can get in. It's about what's right for you. So understanding your problem space first, and then kind of helping you solve those. So yeah, anywhere along the line of, if you want a sounding board to you've got some problems in your head, and you're not even sure that you've fully defined the problem space, absolutely fine, give us a call. All the way to, I've got a deployment plan ready to go, just want to have someone check it over and make sure that we really are following best practice. We're anywhere in the mix there, we're happy to help. So please get in touch. And with that, I will leave you 15 minutes to do with as you please. And thank you very much again for your time and attention.